Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. Today we're going to be talking about a pre-release for Changli. First and foremost, talking about her, I do want to state that at the beginning of the video, we're going to be basically just reading through her skill descriptions, basically just giving you guys a easy text to just follow through, so you guys can just at least see everything as well. We'll be throwing text up on screen so you guys can actually see what's going on in the actual kit descriptions. And then after that, we're going to be going to a separate part of the video where we'll be talking about how her rotation is going to look, and then we'll talk about possible, team members and party members that is going to be probably used alongside of her that we could think of. With all that out of the way, Rift, go ahead and jump right into our skill descriptions.
So jumping right into things, looking at her basic attack, this is called Blazing Enlightenment. You're going to perform up to 4 consecutive attacks, dealing fusion damage. And after releasing ground basic attack stage 4, Changli will enter True Sight, lasting for 12 seconds. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. Now your mid-air attack is going to consume stamina to perform up to 4 consecutive attacks in mid-air, dealing fusion damage. After releasing mid-air attack stage 4, Changli will again enter True Sight, lasting for 12 seconds. Now with her heavy attack, you're going to hold the basic attack on the ground to consume stamina to perform an upward strike, dealing fusion damage. Use basic attack within a certain time after that heavy attack to release mid-air attack stage 3, since that heavy attack is throwing you up into the air. Now the mid-air heavy attack states that shortly after holding basic attack in mid-air, or using basic attack True Sight charge, you can use your basic attack to consume stamina to perform a plunging attack, dealing fusion damage. Use basic attack within a certain time to release basic attack stage 3. And then like all other characters, she has a very basic dodge counter that deals fusion damage. Looking over at her skill, this is called Tripartite Flames. After releasing Resonance Skill, Changli rapidly attacks the enemy and enters True Sight, lasting for 12 seconds. In the end, Changli releases a plunging attack dealing fusion damage. True Sight capture has 2 initial attempts and can be used up to 2 times. The number of attempts is increased by 1 every 12 seconds. And just on a side note, the Resonance skill does have a base cooldown of 12 seconds and actually does have 2 initial charges. Now within the Resonance skill, we have 2 things here. We have basic attack True Sight Conquest and also the counterpart called True Sight Charge. Looking at True Sight Conquest, this states that when in True Sight, if Changli uses ground basic attack, she releases True Sight Conquest, rapidly approaching the enemy and dealing fusion damage, considered as Resonance skill damage. After releasing True Sight Conquest, True Sight will end. And with True Sight Charge, if Changli jumps or uses basic attack in mid-air, she will release True Sight Charge, dashing towards the enemy and dealing fusion damage, also considered as Resonance skill damage. And then just like the Conquest, the True Sight state will end once you do this. Looking quickly at her Resonance Liberation, she's just going to deal fusion damage to nearby targets, obtaining 4 stacks of Inflamement and entering Fiery Feather. Fiery Feather states that when Changli releases heavy attack Flaming Sacrifice, which comes from the Forte circuit, which I'm about to talk about here in just a second, if she releases that Flaming Sacrifice within 10 seconds, her attack is increased by 25%, after which Fiery Feather ends. Now jumping into that Forte circuit called Flaming Vow. Inside her Forte circuit, it's really all centered around doing a heavy attack that's called Flaming Sacrifice. When releasing this heavy attack, if Changli carries 4 stacks of Inflamement, she consumes all stacks of Inflamement to release that Flaming Sacrifice, dealing fusion damage considered as Resonance skill damage. Now, how do we actually get these stacks of Inflamement? There are 3 major ways you can get these. The first way you can obtain these stacks is by doing the basic attack True Sight Conquest on hit. That will get you 1 stack. You can also get 1 stack by doing the counterpart True Sight Charge that we talked about in the Resonance skill. Now, if you use your Resonance Liberation, you will actually get all 4 stacks of Inflamement, allowing you to use Flaming Sacrifice immediately. When you use Changli's intro skill, you'll actually attack the targets in mid-air and enter True Sight, lasting for 12 seconds. So that's just a nice way to get another True Sight instance. Her outro skill is called Strategy of Duality and states that Changli's outro skill will increase the switched-in Resonator's fusion damage by 20% and the Resonance Liberation damage by 25%, lasting for 10 seconds. Switching to another Resonator will end this effect. Now that we've talked about Changli's base kit and given you guys a little look at that, we're now going to talk about what her rotation looks like, how can we maximize her playstyle, and maybe some other characters that she can be useful with. So Vixen, jumping right into things, what is the first thing we kind of want to do when we pop Changli on field?
Well, as you read through the kit, you saw you're constantly trying to get into this True Sight so that you can go into different types of things, so you can do certain types of attacks, get more stacks of Inflamement to do the big Flaming Sacrifice hit. So that's what you're constantly trying to do. Now, if we're talking about trying to get into True Sight, like Riff talked about, there's multiple different ways. Most likely what you'll be doing most of the time is probably from the beginning at least, you'll be doing an intro skill. And that, once again, like Riff talked about very recently actually, was talking about you're going to be jumping into the air and then doing an attack and you'll enter True Sight. Once you enter True Sight, you can then go one of two ways to get one of these stacks of Enflamement. Either doing a ground base attack to get True Sight Conquest, or then doing, after that point, after you're in True Sight, doing a jump or a basic attack in midair, and then releasing True Sight Charge, giving yourself 1 stack of Enflamement. Now, at this point in time, you can either then go back to her basic attacks, or you can use a skill instance. By using a skill instance, you can enter True Sight again, and do once again, trying to get either True Sight Conquest or True Sight Charge to get another instance, or you can go ahead and do another skill usage, because once again, you can get 2 instances of those skill usages, do another one, and get either, once again, another ground basic attack or another jump to get either another conquest or charge attack for you. At this point in time, you've got the intro hit, which is the True Sight, and then doing either a ground basic attack to get a conquest. Then you've got 2 skill usages that can also through conquest and charge as well, afterwards either doing a jump or a basic attack, allowing you to get 2 more charges. Now you're at 3. And the other way that you could do this, because at this point in time, you're now waiting around probably a good 8-9 seconds for your skill to come back, because it's on a 12-second cooldown. At this point in time, now you're waiting for, you can't do the intro again, and you can't do, obviously the skill usages, because you're waiting for your cooldown to go away. So you can actually go through your basic attacks, or you can go through mid-air attacks. If you get to all 4 stages of the basic attack or all 4 stages of the mid-air attack, you will then also enter True Sight, and then either do a ground attack or then do a jump or basic attack in the air. And at this point, then you'll have your 4th stack of Enflamement. At this point, then you'll do that big heavy attack, and then after doing the heavy attack, Flaming Sacrifice will then hit, dealing fusion damage as well. At this point in time, you should probably be close to having your Resonance Liberation, which gives you 4 stacks of Enflamement, which then after that point you have another 4 stacks, and then that allows you to then do another heavy attack, doing another Flaming Sacrifice. And at this point in time, you should have at least one or both of those usages from your skill, allowing you to then go through your basic attack chain to get into True Sight, or allowing you to use both of your skill usages to get more True Sight instances as well, to go through and get more instances of the Enflamement. So basically, there's a lot of different ways to actually get these stacks of Enflamement, whether it's through basic attack chains, getting into True Sight, and then doing a base attack on the ground, or into that. It's basically either doing a intro skill, using a skill, or doing a 4 basic attack chain or a 4 basic attack in the air to get into True Sight. At that point, then you have 2 instances that you can do after doing one of those ways. Either you're going to do a ground base attack, which is going to give you Conquest, which is going to give you a stack of Enflamement, or you can do an attack in the air, like a basic attack in the mid-air, or you can jump, and that's also going to give you a stack of Charge. Then you're going to be doing your heavy attacks. So there's so much going on with everything about her, and the other thing is when you do this heavy attack, it's actually going to pop you into the air. And by doing so, if you once again look back at when Rift was talking about that basic attack, it throws you into the air, and then you can use a basic attack within a certain time to release the mid-air attack stage 3, which then allows you to then already be up to 3 out of the 4 stages that you need for that mid-air to go into True Sight again. So there's so many different ways where you can jump back into True Sight, and by doing that heavy attack, popping you back into the air and doing mid-air attacks, probably the most consistent way you're going to be doing things is probably through Charge, the True Sight Charge, because you're already going to be in mid-air after doing the charge attack. Be popping yourself in the air, doing base attacks in mid-air, giving yourself a charge from Enflamement. So I think a lot of these ways are going to be extremely useful to give her constant stacks. So I don't know, Rift, in talking about how she actually works, that was a lot. What do you think about either teammates or, is she a little bit more on field? Because I think she's a little bit more on field than we initially had thought about her, even though, her outro skill can kind of tell a different story.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on in her kit and can be a little confusing at first, I know it was for me, I'll be honest. But, you just talked about the outro giving that fusion damage bonus as well as resonance liberation damage bonus. And if a lot of us, or if not all of us, we all think of Encore because she's really our only 5-star fusion damage dealer, right? It seems to make sense because she deals a lot of damage with her being a fusion character, right? So the question would be is, can I use Encore with Changli? And I think I can't say directly no to that because it does make sense and it does help Encore. The problem or the first issue would be is that Encore might take up too much field time, or vice versa. Changli seems to take up a lot of field time, especially because you're trying to stack up and doing those true states and doing it multiple times so that you can build up your 4 stacks of enflamement to get that bigger hit in the Forte circuit. So then other things can come to mind, like Chixia. While a lot of people seem to not talk about Chixia just because she's a 4-star and doesn't really help other characters, she's kind of selfish. She is a fusion character that's very selfish with her personal damage. So I think Changli would be actually a good DPS for your team, but also does help Chixia a lot to go switch off of Changli into Chixia to still get a little bit of damage in. And then the great thing about Chixia is she doesn't take a lot of field time. Because we were talking about this earlier, Vixen, actually. We've noticed with Wuthering Waves is it's very difficult to actually use your 2 other slots to support your main first slot or your DPS, whatever slot that is. Because you cannot, like, I'll just bring up the example. Sanhua and Taochi. Sanhua gives basic attack damage and Taochi helps with the resonance skill damage. But you can't combine those 2 things to then go and help Changli if you wanted to do that, because you're either giving one or you're giving the other. That's just how it works. So usually it's one dedicated support and then your sustain. You can have those in 2. And if you do have a sustain mixed with the support in one character, like Verena, for example, then your last flex slot can really just be another damage character, preferably that doesn't take a lot of field time, or just kind of to help if your one DPS has a lot of field time, then your other damage dealer is lower field time. So Chixia seems like a good opportunity to use. You could use Encore. I'm not going to say you can't. It just seems like a lot of field time that takes away from Changli. With your supports, though, or your sustains, I think Verena's a good option here. We know her outro gives an overall damage bonus for the entire team, so very good. Her heals are amazing. But there's also Taochi that might get overlooked. Now, there has been recent talk about Taochi being used with Jinhsi, and I do think that's a great option. In our last video, we did talk about Jinhsi doing a lot of damage with her basics and heavies, and there was a change there saying that Taochi's actually going to be really good for her, and that is true. In the same scenario with Changli, I think Taochi's going to be a great support because if we go through the kit again, or just watch the beginning of the video, you'll see in the skill descriptions, a lot of her damage is considered resonance skill damage. But in between those, she is weaving a few other things like the basics because you're trying to get that true state to even do those resonance skill damage type of hits, right? So Taochi's going to be great here. Not only is she the sustain for your team as a shielder, she's not too much field time, which is debatable because she does feel very slow being a broad blade unit, and just kind of using her shield at the beginning to get the actual shield stat feels kind of slow and sluggish, which is fair. But she's a great character in that she can increase your resonance skill damage on her outro.
Well, that's everything we've got talking about Changli. She's got a lot going on in her kit, but she looks extremely fun, and although she may be a little bit different than what we originally imagined, I think she's going to be a great character for a lot of people who are looking to pull her. If you guys did like the video, please go ahead and like, subscribe, as well as join the Discord for either Wuthering Waves talks or Honkai Star Rail talks or Genshin talks as well. And we do make constant videos as well on the other games as well, so go ahead and check out our channel for other videos you may be interested in. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.